So our lesson today is talking about using operations. You know the operations, the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So that would include things like adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. So we're going to take a look at how we can use those different operations in slightly different ways. Okay. Some of this, I think it might be helpful to you to write down on paper. Just kind of write it down as a note, however you see fit. When I say, well, let's talk about addition, well, something like 6 plus 5 is no big problem for you, and technically that's addition. Even something like 342 plus 961 is not an issue for you. But some things that we haven't tried as much are things like adding decimals. Okay, so just a reminder, if you're adding two numbers that have a decimal, like let's say 23.6 and 1.2, this is the big idea that we have to remember when we're adding decimals, to line up that decimal. Okay, even though I've got 3 digits here, 2 and 3 and 6, and only 2 here, 1 and 2, really I'm going to line up the decimals. Why do I have to do that? 23.6, and right underneath is my next decimal, so 1 goes here and 2 goes there. What does that do when I line up the decimals? It's not just a trick, like, oh, that's a good way to do this. We do that for a reason. Sam?
You do it so you're not adding 2 times 3.
Correct. It helps me get my place values in the right spot. So I'm adding ones with ones, and I'm adding tens with tens, and I'm adding tenths with tenths. If I don't add up those decimals, you're right, I could have something like a ones column that's in the same spot as my tenths, and I don't want to do that. I want to add the same things. Okay, I don't even need to finish the problem. I just want to show you that we add it up. Okay. When we multiply decimals, it says you multiply and then you count something. Okay, so let's do that same thing. I'll use 23.6, and I'm going to use 1.2. And so the thought, and I know we've talked about this before, but as you multiply, you don't really pay any attention to that decimal. Okay, you just multiply. And I go 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 3 is 6, oh, sorry, plus 1 more is 7, 2 times 2 is 4. Put your place value in there, 1 times 6, 1 times 3, 1 times 2, and you add them all up, right? 2, 13, 8, 2, and I get 2, 8, 3, 2, okay? So here's where the question becomes, 2, 8, 3, 2. How big is that number? Is it 0.2832? Is it 2 whole things, 0.832? Is it 28.32? Is it 283.2? Where does decimal go, right? What was our trick in deciding that?
How many numbers were before the decimal?
Not before, after, digits after the decimal. Okay, so write that on your paper if you'd like. You count the number of digits in the decimal. The total number of digits in the decimals in both of the numbers that you're multiplying. Because that's going to be the same as how many are in the answer. So we had 23.6. My 6 was after the decimal, right? We multiplied that by 1.2. 2 was after the decimal. So altogether, I've got 2 digits that come after the decimal. That needs to be the case here. So I know my answer's got to be 28.32. However, I would like you to think about this in a better mathematical way. It's not as precise, but it's probably a better way of thinking about it. I'd like you to estimate it. What makes sense? Because some of you might be like doing all this and you just miscount. And go, oh, there's 3 decimals there, and all of a sudden your answer is way off. But instead, if we would just estimate first and just say, well, 1.2 is about 1. It's a little bit more than that. 23.6 is about 24. So if I took 1 times 24, my answer should be somewhere around 24. So if you think that through and go, well, my answer should be somewhere around 24, 2.8 doesn't make any sense. 283.2 doesn't make any sense. The only thing that even comes close is 28.32. Okay? I think that's a better way to start and then double check it with these, you know, how many digits come after the decimal place. Make sense? All right. When we're taking decimals and we're dividing them, okay, what we want to do, if I've got, again, we'll use 20, I don't have much room in here, but 23.6